Thank you, Acting Speaker. I rise today to contribute to the Police Informants Royal Commission Implementation Monitor Bill 2021. And firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the contributions before me, in particular the member as he leaves, the member for Burwood. His contribution was fantastic, and also the member for Frankston, so I appreciate their contributions. On the 3rd of December 2018, following the publication of the High Court's decision, which revealed a former criminal defence barrister, Ms Nicola Gobbo, was a registered Victoria Police human source. The government announced the establishment of the Royal Commission into the management of police informants and to independently inquire into matters to go to the heart of Victoria's criminal justice system over more than 2 decades. This Royal Commission delivered its final report to the Victorian Government on the 30th of November 2020. The report contained 111 recommendations, of which 54 were directed to the Government. Later in May this year, the Government released a detailed response to the Royal Commission's final report and confirmed its commitment to implement the Commission's recommendations. It has been recommended by the Royal Commission that a robust governance structure with independent monitoring and reporting should be in place to ensure effective and transparent implementation. This is an important recommendation to ensure a robust governance structure. This will deliver confidence back to the Victorian community about how police informants will be handled into the future. Following the recommendations that the Government appoint an implementation monitor within 3 months of its final report, the Government appointed Sir David Carruthers to this role in February this year. Sir David is an eminent member of the legal community. He was appointed as a judge of New Zealand's Family Court and the Youth Court in Wellington in 1985, and then the Chief District Court Judge in 2001. In 2005, Sir David was appointed Chair of the New Zealand Parole Board, and in 2012 became Chair of the New Zealand Independent Police Conduct Authority, so I think he knows something about this business. He was made a Distinguished Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit in 2005 and was knighted in 2009 for his service to the district courts. So he is a most credible person to be appointed to this role. This bill provides for the Governor in Council, on the recommendation of the Attorney-General, to appoint a person as a Police Informants Royal Commission Implementation Monitor. Following this passage of the bill, he will be formally appointed into the new statutory position. Having such an eminent member of the legal community is a great asset for Victoria. His experience in the New Zealand legal system also ensures an independent and respected overview of the Implementation Monitor. An Implementation Monitor holds office for the term specified by the Governor in Council, which under the bill cannot exceed 4 years. The Monitor can also be reappointed for a further terms of up to 4 years. This bill seeks to establish the statutory office of the Police Informants Royal Commission Implementation Monitor. This monitor will have reasonable and necessary powers to fulfil their role. The Andrews Labor government has invested $2.03 million to establish this office of the Implementation Monitor, and this will ensure that the progress and implementation of the Royal Commission's recommendations. This bill will establish the functions and the Implementation Monitor. It will confer on the Implementation Monitor the necessary powers to perform their functions under the bill. It will establish a reporting framework for the implementation of the Royal Commission's recommendations, including annual reporting by the Implementation Monitor to the Attorney-General and by the Attorney-General to Parliament. The bill will acquit Recommendation 109 of the Royal Commission's final report, and the Implementation Monitor, with the support of a small secretariat located within the Department of Justice and Community Safety, will have powers to fulfil their role to assess the implementation of the Commission's recommendations throughout the implementation process, not only once responsible agencies have reported on the completion of the implementation. It will access Implementation Task Force documents and attend meetings of the Implementation Task Force. It will indicate to responsible agencies the extent to which their implementation of the Commission's recommendations is considered adequate, and request regular reports from Victoria Police on its progress in fulfilling its ongoing disclosure obligations to potentially affected persons identified by the Commission. It will also request reports from the Special Investigator on the progress to establish their operations and the outcomes of their investigations. And it will also request reports from the Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police on the progress and outcomes of any disciplinary proceedings arising from the Special Investigator's disciplinary investigations. The final report of the Royal Commission emphasised the need for all stakeholders to work together to achieve a purposeful implementation. The Implementation Monitor will take the lead role in oversighting the implementation of the Royal Commission's recommendations and ensuring the acquittal of recommendations is outcomes focused. Agencies that will be subject to the Implementation Monitor's powers have acknowledged the important role in ensuring the Royal Commission's recommendations are delivered in a timely manner and consistent with the Royal Commission's outcomes focus. The Government is committed to a collaborative implementation with all stakeholders to ensure the Commission's objectives are met, and the circumstances that gave rise to the Royal Commission can never happen again, and I don't think there's any Victorian that would like to see this ever happen again. Back on the 7th of May 2021, the Attorney-General released the Government's response to the final report of the Royal Commission, alongside an implementation plan, and also with some funding of $87.9 million. The plan focuses on actions to implement the Royal Commission's 54 recommendations directed to the Government. It also outlines the principles-based framework agreed to by all other bodies responsible for the implementation of the remaining 57 recommendations. This almost $88 million funding will go to the Department of Justice and Community Safety, the Office of Public Prosecutions, the Victorian Legal Aid and Victorian Legal Services Board and Commission, the Victoria Police, the Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission and the courts to support implementation of the Royal Commission's recommendations. As part of this funding package, a total of $2.03 million has been committed to establish the Office of the Implementation Monitor, and a robust governance structure has also been established, and Government is working closely with all the agencies to implement those responsibilities. This legislation provides the Implementation Monitor with all the necessary and reasonable powers required to fulfil their role, and to support all the agencies with responsibilities for implementation to do so fully. The following agencies will be subject to the Implementation Monitor's powers under the bill, and they are the Department of Justice and Community Safety, the Department of Premier and Cabinet, the Victoria Police, the Office of Public Prosecutions, the Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission, the Public Interest Monitor, the Victorian Legal Services Commissioner, the Law Institute of Victoria, the Victorian Bar Incorporated and the Victorian Government Solicitor's Office. These agencies have recommendations directed towards them for implementation and are all members of the Cross-Agency Implementation Task Force, which has been established as recommended by the Royal Commission. Under the bill, the Attorney-General can also recommend to the Governor and Council that further agencies be oversighted by the Implementation Monitor, and the Attorney-General is permitted under the bill to request that the Implementation Monitor provide written or oral advice on any issue relating to the implementation of the Royal Commission's recommendations. The ability to request advice does not permit the Attorney-General to direct or influence the Implementation Monitor in the exercise of their functions or powers. Rather, it provides an opportunity for the Attorney-General to seek timely advice from the Implementation Monitor so that implementation issues can be addressed as expeditiously as possible. This is consistent with the Family Violence Reform Implementation Monitor, who is also required to respond to a request by the Minister for advice. The bill requires an Implementation Monitor to consider a broad range of factors and be informed by advice from an engagement with responsible agencies when performing their functions. The bill requires the Implementation Monitor to consider the following factors, including when preparing an implementation report: the recommendations made by the Royal Commission, advice and reports provided by responsible agencies on implementation progress, including any impediments to implementation and whether any measures have been taken to overcome those impediments, whether genuine attempts have been made to comply with the Royal Commission's timeframes for implementation, and whether there are any interdependencies or external processes which may affect a responsible agency's timely implementation of the recommendations. This is an important bill for Victoria, and this strikes back of gaining confidence of our community members, and that's why it's so important. I want to thank the Premier for his leadership on this particular issue. I also want to extend my thanks to the Attorney-General and her predecessor and the teams and the efforts that they put in, and I commend this bill to the House.